It's been announced that the Denver Broncos have made a pair of roster moves today. Now, this information is per NFLTradeRumors.co, who has access to the transaction wire. It was announced today that the Denver Broncos have signed wide receiver Nick Williams, the former Cherry Creek wide receiver, and they have waived quarterback Jarrett Guarantano. Starting off with Jarrett Guarantano, he initially joined the Denver Broncos in the latter part of last season as a replacement to Josh Johnson as our practice squad quarterback. Johnson had recently gotten signed by the San Francisco 49ers in wake of Jimmy Garoppolo's injury. Guarantano ultimately got elevated to the Denver Broncos active roster ahead of our game against the Arizona Cardinals after Russell Wilson was ruled out with a concussion. He backed up Brett Rippon in that game and reverted to our third-string quarterback for the remainder of the season. The Broncos signed former XFL star and former Dallas Cowboys quarterback Ben DiNucci this offseason, and he performed quite well in the XFL, and he's expected to serve as our third-string quarterback this season. Remember, with the NFL's new quarterback rules, the Broncos can have a third quarterback active on game day, but that means that they're going to have to keep 3 quarterbacks on their active roster in order to do so. This just means that that roster spot won't count towards the 47 players who are active on game day. Technically, it will now be 48 players, but that 48th player must be a quarterback. I'm really excited to see what Ben DiNucci can do in camp and in the preseason, and overall it seems that he's impressed enough to be our primary third-string quarterback behind Russell Wilson and Jarrett Stidham, and no further competition is needed from him unless the Broncos do indeed bring in another quarterback. Perhaps they just weren't happy with Jarrett Guarantano. Now, as far as Nick Williams is concerned, he is a native of Denver who had signed with the Broncos earlier this offseason, but ultimately got waived to make room for other players on the roster. The Broncos clearly liked what they saw from him in his brief time with the team, so they decided to bring him back to give the team an extra body at the wide receiver position in lieu of KJ Hamler going on the PUP list. If you want to hear more information about Nick Williams from his time at Cherry Creek to his time at UNLV, I actually made a separate video about that when we first signed him a couple of months ago. So I'll go ahead and link that video with the card above me. So if you want to learn a little bit more about Nick Williams, you can do so by checking out that video. But the Broncos add another body at the wide receiver spot and ultimately end up cutting a quarterback. I don't think that this is going to be the last of the Denver Broncos roster moves ahead of training camp. I've already talked about how they're going to have to add a defensive lineman at some point. They could add some offensive line help as well, potentially some reinforcements at running back. There's still some moves that can definitely be made for the Denver Broncos, but right now they feel confident enough that they don't want to carry 4 quarterbacks on their 90-man roster. I'm curious, Broncos country, how do you feel about the moves that were made today, and what moves do you anticipate the Denver Broncos making ahead of training camp? Drop those comments down below, guys. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, as always. Be sure to leave a like on this video, as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. I would really appreciate it, guys. Those are 2 free and easy ways to show your support. As I always say, it helps tell YouTube's algorithm to push us out, helps us get seen by more and more members of Broncos country, and really just helps the channel grow overall. I would really appreciate it. It's the best way that you can help this channel out. And until next time, guys, this has been another episode of Denver Broncos Syndicate. I am your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.